Hello YouTube, welcome to another video. It's the media preacher here, Michael Gallacher, and I thought I'd share some knowledge essentially with this video because I know a lot of people who are watching the channel are probably into their records, into their vinyl, and I've been into vinyl now for about 2 or 3 years, and through trial and error I've discovered that vinyl can be a fantastic medium. It can sound absolutely great as long as you maintain it properly and as long as you put the effort essentially into making it sound great. Because a lot of the times when you buy second-hand records and you put them onto your turntable, those records actually won't sound very good, and that's because the records are dirty. And so I thought I'd share with you my methods for cleaning records and for improving the quality of their sound and really for getting the best out of them. And so I thought I'd talk you through my process and what I use so that you can copy it, or if you want to adapt it in some way, of course that's up to you. And please feel free in the comments to explain to me how you clean your records and any methods that you've got, because these are just methods that I've tried to discover for myself and not necessarily perfect, but I think that they do a good job, which is why I thought I should share them. Now, I suppose the first question is, what do you use actually to clean your records? Well, you're going to need a number of things. Microfiber cloths are very important, and they have to be microfiber because if they're not, then potentially they could scratch the record and you're harming it rather than helping it. So I've got a couple of microfiber cloths that I use. I've got one of these car shimmy windscreen type cloths. These are microfiber, and I think they're fantastic for this job. Also got a standard microfiber cloth which I use essentially to dry the record off after I've finished cleaning it. The other tools that I use are essentially a clothes brush, which has a slightly hard feel to it, but it doesn't scratch the record and it really gets into the grooves of the record. So I think this is actually really helpful for cleaning your records. And the other thing I use, which I think really gets into the grooves, is this, which is actually from a Harris painting set, and it's for cutting in when you're painting to corners. But the material that's on this is absolutely fantastic for cleaning records because it doesn't scratch the records, but it's abrasive enough that it removes dust and it gets into the grooves. And you can pick these up from any DIY store. B&Q in the United Kingdom sell them as Harris sets, and you get rollers and all kinds of other bits and bobs with it. But I use this particular thing for cleaning records, and you can put the rollers and everything aside for painting your house in due course. I also use, of course, a solution when I'm cleaning my records that I make up myself. A lot of people buy these solutions online that are specifically designed for record cleaning, or they have very expensive record cleaning machines, which I'm told do a great job. But this is really record cleaning on a less serious scale, for want of a better word. I use a spray can like this. You can pick them up again from any DIY store. It just allows you to administer the fluid. And the fluid inside of the can is a solution that I've made up essentially of isopropyl alcohol, 70% alcohol. I got this from the local chemist. I had to ask them specifically for it and they ordered it in for me. But I normally fill this about a quarter of the way with the alcohol solution first. As I say, this is 70%, but the higher alcohol content you can get, the better. I then fill the rest of the bottle up with deionized water. Now, deionized water you can buy from any supermarket, or you can make yourself by using tap water, putting it into your kettle, boiling it, and then letting it cool down. And when it cools down, the water is deionized, and it's essentially the cleanest type of water that you can use. So moving on, I always have a nice clean surface to clean the records on, and I use this. It was actually an old laundry basket, but again it's the sort of material that won't scratch the record, which is why I like to put the record on it. Lay that flat. I have a record here that I picked up from a second-hand shop. It's actually the Alan Parsons Project iRobot. I got it for £1, so I'm really excited to hear it. But I don't want to play it in its current condition because I know that it's quite dirty. I've looked at it, and if you put a dirty record onto your record player and the stylus plays through that, you can actually damage your stylus. And as I've said, because there are small dust particles actually in the grooves of the record, the stylus, as it's tracking through the record, will play that dust, and the sound is a crackling sound that you're all familiar with. But records don't have to crackle, they can sound really, really quiet, and they're at their best when they do, because then the stylus is essentially touching only the grooves of the record. So this record isn't in too bad a shape, but it clearly needs to be cleaned up a little bit. So place it flat on your surface, take your solution, and essentially just spray the solution, if it'll come out. That'll work. Spray the solution onto the record. Nice healthy distribution across the record essentially, which that should do it. Now what I like to do is I like the solution to really work its way kind of into the grooves. Try and not get it onto the label of the record, because clearly you can peel the label off if you're not careful about that. But I just like to work the solution gently around the record so that it goes into the grooves. And I like to let it sit there, normally for about 30 seconds to a minute. I want it to do that because I want it to really penetrate the grooves, so that when I go to then remove the solution is then removing those dust particles from the grooves of the record. So let's say I've left it for the required period of time. What I then do is I take the the Harris cutter in as the first implement that I use, and I hold the record flat, and I essentially really work the solution into the grooves of the record. And I just work my way around the record like this. Put quite a bit of force on it so that the various follicles here are really getting into the grooves of the record, and hopefully removing those dust particles that you find inside of the grooves of the record. So I do that all around a few times, and you can feel the traction, you can feel it working into the grooves. This never scratches the record, it never has, not once, and I've done this hundreds of times now. So don't be frightened about putting a little bit of force into it, because all you're doing is working into those grooves. After I've done that, I take the clothes brush, and I essentially start to remove the first layer of the solution using the clothes brush, and I work my way all around the record, because essentially this pulls static off the record as well, which will also help with the way it ultimately plays back. And you can see, I can already see on there's quite a lot of dirt and grime that's been pulled off of this. And now I want to start removing the solution essentially. So I normally leave it for about another 30 seconds, and then I take the windscreen chamois from the car, which again you can pick up from any DIY store, and with that I start to really dig into the grooves of the record again with the solution, but I'm removing the solution this time also. I normally do this twice. So I pull it round that way, and then I turn the chamois around, and I now start to wipe off the excess of the record. I normally leave that for about 30 seconds, thereabouts again. And then I take my microfiber cloth, and this is the last part of the solution essentially. I then just clean the record off, dry it out, like so. And then I let the record dry. And it's really important to let the record dry, because now you've got a much cleaner record than you had before. Hopefully it's gotten into all the grooves of the record, and it's removed most of those really tiny microscopic dirt particles actually in the grooves of the record that cause that crackle and pop sound. Hopefully you've also removed a lot of static from the record also by using the clothes brush. And so now, after waiting for about 5 minutes, I'll put the record onto the turntable and I can enjoy listening to the Alan Parsons project. Sometimes it still sounds a bit crackly for the first play, so if it's a particularly dirty record, then continue the process again, repeat it, play the record through, and you should then have a really nice, clean sounding record. I say most of the time the crackles and pops aren't coming from scratches and things in the record, they're actually coming from the dust particles that are wedged in between the grooves. So if you can remove those, you're really going to improve the way that the medium sounds, because records can sound absolutely fantastic, but they won't sound fantastic if you don't put the work in the first place. And so if you put the work in, you should end up with a really nice sounding record collection. And even if you have, as I say, actual scratches on the record, a lot of the times those scratches will play through quite well. You just need to remove the dirt and grime that's naturally building up in the record over the years. So without further ado, I'm going to sign off from this video. If you enjoyed the video, please check out some of my other review videos, and if you enjoy those, please subscribe to the channel, because the more subscribers I can get, the more successful the channel is. So until next time, this is Michael Gallacher, the Media Preacher, signing off.